Do you know about that 200-year-old retail beast that went from earning billions to going bankrupt and facing the harsh reality of shutting down nearly half of its stores?
Now empty clothing racks, cleaned out shelves, and abandoned cash registers.
Yeah, we're talking about the dramatic downfall of Lord & Taylor.
Department store Lord & Taylor is closing its doors for good.
But why did the beloved institution crumble so spectacularly?
The high-end retailer filed for bankruptcy earlier this month.
In this video, I will go into the fascinating rise and fall of Lord Taylor and inspect the secrets behind its success and its eventual demise. So stick around until the end, because I'll present you something that you didn't know before. Lord & Taylor, the ancient retail maestro from 1826, once ruled the American shopping realm, decked with threads and goods that defined generations. It strutted its stuff as the oldest U.S. department store, but the winds of change blew hard in 2020, sounding the bankruptcy bugle. By 2021, its brick-and-mortar saga ended, leaving a nostalgic void in shoppers' hearts.
Coat, my headscarf, my purse, my gloves. It's all Lord & Taylor.
What happened to them is truly shocking, but I will discuss that later in this video. First, let's get to know the amazing origins of this retail store. Origin and rise. In the early 1800s, a bloke named Samuel Lord began peddling dry goods. Little did he know that this humble start in 1824 would give birth to the iconic Lord & Taylor just 2 years later. Tucked away on Catherine Street, it was the go-to for hosiery, shawls, and chic misses wear. When George Washington Taylor jumped on board in 1834, the store got its full-blown name and began expanding its turf. Fast forward, these guys were leveling up their game. They shifted to bigger spots, annexed buildings, and even built a swanky new store at Grand and Christie Streets in 1853. It was all marble and magnificence, setting the bar high for other stores sprouting up in Broadway's neighborhood. In 1859, Lord & Taylor doubled down with a second store in Broadway at Grand Street. This 5-story marvel was the talk of the town, an epitome of grandeur in those days. They didn't stop there. Wholesale joined their repertoire and rocked the retail scene. But like any good story, there were twists. Samuel Lord retired in 1862, passing the baton to his son and nephew, who steered the retail ship forward, shifting from downtown vibes to upscale Ladies' Mile in 1870. It was a bold move. Their new cast-iron beauty at Broadway and 20th Street was a showstopper, boasting steam-powered elevators. Fancy tech back then. The Panic of 1873 hit them hard, but they bounced back stronger. By the late 1800s, they were flexing their expansion muscles again, opening stores on Fifth Avenue and sprucing up their downtown spot. The pinnacle was the grand Fifth Avenue store and headquarters, a Starrett and Van Vleck masterpiece that wowed New Yorkers in 1914. In a plot twist, they bid farewell to their wholesale gig in 1915, probably wanting to focus on their retail hustle. Mid-20th century, the rise and fall. Dorothy Shaver strides in as the head honcho of Lord & Taylor in 1945, making history as the first woman to lead a major U.S. retail joint. That's a big deal, right? She revolutionized the game, setting up the first branch store in Manhasset, New York. Think 66 individual shops, a suburban shopping haven that set the gold standard. Shaver was a trailblazer, partnering up with the design champs at Raymond Loewy Associates, jazzing up the stores, and giving birth to what we call the modern suburban shopping paradise. She sprinkled in special services like personal shoppers. She brought in icons like the Andrew Geller logo and the American Beauty Rose, making Lord & Taylor feel more like a classy hangout than just a retail spot. But as life goes, Shaver's story with Lord & Taylor took a sad turn when she passed away in 1959. William J. Lippincott took the reins in '72. steering the ship toward uncharted territories like Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, and even the Midwest. Expansion was the name of the game. Then came Joseph E. Brooks in the 70s and 80s. This dude was all about expansion. Lord & Taylor spread its wings across Texas, Illinois, and Michigan. You name it, they probably had a store there. The 80s saw May Company snapping Associated Dry Goods, giving Lord & Taylor a new home, but they had to trim their sales a bit, pulling out from parts of Texas and southern Florida. Jane T. Elfers and Brandon Hoffman, Bonnie Brooks, Liz Rodbell. Sounds like the retail version of musical chairs, right? These powerhouse leaders took turns steering the Lord & Taylor ship through different eras. Federated Department Stores swooped in, acquiring May Department Stores in 2005. Next thing you know, Lord & Taylor's on the real estate market, with Macy's snatching up some locations like it was a clearance sale. The unpredictable happened. In 2006, NRDC Equity Partners decided to buy it for a whopping $1.2 billion. Federated, being the good sports they were, kept handling Lord & Taylor's credit accounts until around mid-2007. Things got even spicier in 2008 when NRDC went on a shopping spree and snagged the ancient Hudson Bay Company. Suddenly, Lord & Taylor found itself in this big family alongside Saks Fifth Avenue and other bigwigs, making it part of the Cool Kids Club. This marriage came with a promise to splash out $250 million to spruce up stores. The Fifth Avenue flagship got a $150 million facelift in 2010. Talk about fancy. They went all out modern, with stores in places like Westchester County, Boca Raton, and even Albany. Then they got into bed with WeWork, planning to sell a piece of their flagship store in New York City for a cool $850 million. That plan didn't quite pan out as they expected, but the store renovation still went ahead, costing a sweet $12 million. Major acquisitions. Walmart decided to join the party, starting to sell Lord & Taylor threads on their site in 2018. That's like your cool cousin suddenly rocking up at a family reunion. Some called it genius. And then, in 2019, Latote Incorporated swooped in, snatching Lord & Taylor for $75 million in cash, and promising to keep all 38 brick-and-mortar locations. It was like a new player entering the game, taking over the mantle from the big shots. In November 2019, the deal was sealed and Latote strutted in as the new sheriff in town, owning every brick-and-mortar spot. Phew, Lord & Taylor's journey could make a soap opera blush. The pandemic hit. Amidst the chaos of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, Lord & Taylor faced a rocky road. Forced closures hit them hard as local and state governments deemed non-essential retail off-limits. But that wasn't all. As if that wasn't enough drama, some of their closed stores faced looting following the tragic murder of George Floyd. Come May 15, 2020, a glimmer of hope appeared as a couple of Lord & Taylor spots in Florida and New Hampshire got the green light to reopen. Slowly but surely, by July 3, 2020, all their stores across the United States were back in business. Bankruptcy. However, the storm clouds persisted. The financial strain caused by the pandemic pushed Lord & Taylor and Latote to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection on August 2, 2020. Talk about rough seas. Hope flickered briefly when Cedia Group LLC stepped in, announcing plans to take over Lord & Taylor and shift the focus to a digital-first format on October 15, 2020. But alas, the traditional Lord & Taylor stores began their swan song. By October 20, 2020, the brick-and-mortar format started shutting down operations, signaling a bittersweet goodbye. The closures came in waves. The first 18 out of 38 stores bowed out. Following by others, until finally, on February 27, 2021, the remaining 19 stores pulled down their shutters for good. A mix of pandemic woes and quirky Bergen County blue laws in New Jersey decided their fate, closing shop a day earlier than planned. Reasons for Lord & Taylor's decline. Let's look over some of the main reasons that caused a steady downfall and ultimately the closure of most of L&T's stores. Reason number 1, stuck in a time warp. Lord & Taylor became like that old school band that was a hit in the 70s but somehow missed the memo that time keeps on ticking. Back in the day, it was the bee's knees for moms and kids, a shopping paradise that people were addicted to. But then, cue the 90s, and Lord & Taylor just got stuck in a rut. It's like they hit their prime in the disco era and decided to hang out there forever. Meanwhile, the world kept on spinning, trends were changing, and the new generations were hopping on different bandwagons. Lord & Taylor missed the train on that one. They didn't quite get the memo that keeping up with the times was the name of the game. While other stores were reinventing the shopping experience, offering new vibes and styles, Lord & Taylor seemed content to stay in their little time capsule. Sure, nostalgia's great and all, but the world was moving forward, and Lord & Taylor was kinda just chilling in the past. The magic that made it a household name in the 70s just didn't evolve with the changing times. Reason number 2, pandemic hit really hard. Lord & Taylor's decline began long before the pandemic, but the COVID-19 crisis undoubtedly accelerated its demise. The pandemic forced their retailers to close their physical stores. The Lord & Taylor, with its outdated brick-and-mortar strategy, was particularly vulnerable. The brand was already struggling to compete with e-commerce giants, and the pandemic further disrupted its operations and eroded customer confidence. According to a report by Coresight Research, Lord & Taylor's sales had been declining for years, and the pandemic only accelerated this trend. In 2019, the brand's sales fell by 13%, and in 2020, they dropped by a further 33%. The pandemic also led to a surge in online shopping, which further disadvantaged Lord & Taylor, as the brand had not invested heavily in its e-commerce capabilities. Reason number 3, shaken up management. A big shake-up in the management happened, and suddenly it was like a game of musical chairs, but instead of music, they had layoffs and new faces stepping in. Corona sauntered in like an uninvited party guest, making things even crazier. The whole place turned into a waiting room, and no one knew when their name would be called. People who were working there got a ticket back to work after a break, only to find out that Lord & Taylor was in dire straits, and no one had bothered to give the lowdown before things went south. Then they started receiving the emails, a flurry of them, asking everyone to return to work with a pay cut during the bankruptcy hustle. It was like trying to fix a flat tire with a piece of chewing gum. The store was hanging by a thread. Sales were plummeting faster than a rock down a hill. And departments like jewelry and makeup were feeling pinch, operating with just a skeleton crew. They tried to adapt, bless them, doing the whole curbside pickup dance and even letting folks back inside. But come on, in a mall, it's like trying to dance a tango in a phone booth. The place was understaffed. Christmas vibes turned from merry to worry. And the staff, well, they were tight-knit like a family, but the ship was sinking fast. Reason number 4, financial issues. Lord & Taylor's sales had been steadily declining for years, primarily due to its inability to adapt to changing customer preferences and the rise of e-commerce. This decline in sales led to a growing debt burden as the company struggled to generate enough revenue to cover its operational expenses and debt payments. They relied heavily on promotional discounts and sales to attract customers, but this strategy ultimately eroded its profit margins and damaged its brand perception. Customers became accustomed to expecting discounts, and the brand lost its appeal as a purveyor of high-quality luxury goods. Reason number 5, e-commerce and the growth of fast fashion giants. The conventional business strategy of Lord & Taylor was threatened by the rise of fast fashion business like Zara and H&M and the dominance of e-commerce giants like Amazon. It was challenging for Lord & Taylor to compete with these rivals due to their lower costs and greater convenience, and larger product selection. Were you ever addicted to this supergiant retailer? How was your experience? Please do share it with me in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe. See ya!